I really appreciate what have been done by the British Council so far, of course, in terms of capacity building and in terms of bringing so much of resources back to our country and then engaging most of the people that we exist in Pakistan and then creating such kind of collaboration. But then at the same time, I do agree with the statement being given by the worthy Vice Chancellor, who mentioned that either we have been really trying to answer the question that we have as a problem in our real world. So, in fact, sir, if in order to answer to your question, I would say I'm at the moment keeping ahead of member commission. So I'm representing Higher Education Commission here also, along with being a Vice Chancellor of different two universities at the same time. So it's the very first time the realization came over in the HEC that what we have been funding in terms of research projects were going into the vein, and we were not really contributing in terms of coming up with the solutions of the real world problem. Most of the time the funding was going into the basic research, was like 70% funding to the basic research and 30% funding to the action-oriented research have been carried out. But it's the very first time, and after being a member there, I mentioned that what we need is an action-oriented research most in comparison to the basic research. And the NRPU is in fact a national research funding that has been given to the universities in terms of the project that faculty is executing, but even students in their PhD work can execute. So what we are doing this time, that we made a paradigm shift. So we made it 30% for the basic research funding available and 70% available for the active research. So the purpose was again to look up to the real world problems and then trying to solve it. Now, how this idea being conceived, of course, is my own background, being a postdoc from University of Utah in entrepreneurial universities. What in fact I did there, that when I was sitting in the technology and venture commercialization offices in the entrepreneurial university, I'm not talking about Pakistan, I'm talking about US, which has been considered as an entrepreneurial university, I realized that the problem of a gap between using the higher education sector in order to solving the real problems still exists there. So now we can imagine we are far behind these developed countries, in fact. And what we did there is came up with a new concept or a new tool which is known as Lean Canvas to Invention. I devised this as my own curricula. I write a book onto that, and I started teaching it to the University of Utah at the 3 o'clock in the morning. So every 3 o'clock Wednesday, I teach at University of Utah online this course, adapting that Philip-based learning, which was just Jawad mentioning. And what in fact we are doing is connecting exactly the real world problem with the research being conducted by faculty. I've been replicating the same model in the PhD classes of Mehran University of Engineering Technology, because as I mentioned that I'm wearing a couple of hats. I'm professor at Mehran, but I'm Vice Chancellor of Art and Design University, but I'm also a Vice Chancellor of Sufism and Mystical University, so it's quite a combination, plus HEC member too. Sir, I really agree with the point, and the solution is also already there, being introduced. Hence need a connection between Higher Education Commission, Ministry of Science and Technology, and Planning Commission at the same time. So we have a member planning commission here. They've been doing development projects for the education. But what is more realized and more required is funding on a research-oriented projects, doing active research and trying to solve the real-world problems. So there will be a couple of solutions. We can also talk about it more detail. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Just before we